electronically, so we can actually keep track of understanding how many people are in services and if there's anything we desire to volunteer for. Would you please rise and help me with the call to worship. We gather this day to worship our God, whose words and ways challenge us.
God invites us to lose our selfishness to find ourselves.
God invites us to be fools in the world He shows. God invites us to be fools in the world to show forth the wisdom of Christ.
God urges us to empty ourselves to discover life's fullness.
God bids us to be obedient to the divine will so we might know true freedom.
We come to worship our Creator, seeking to have our faith challenged in this growth. We root our faith in worship, seeking to find our faith challenged into growing season of life.
Will you please remain standing and sing the old rugged cross?
Thank
faith depends upon Christ from start to finish, and He unceasingly intercedes on our behalf. Therein abides our hope and our assurance. Will you give gift of faith? O God, you have sent your Son into the world that we may have life. As we go forth from the sanctuary, may we offer that life in Christ's name to our neighbor. Use our talents to build up Christ's body. Use the money that we give to bring healing for his sake. All that we give is in response to your benevolent care. Amen.
This is based on a hymn that is not in our hymnal, so I just want to read a couple verses of the text. Jesus paid it all. And I hear the Savior say, thy strength indeed is small. Child of weakness, watch and pray, for in me thine all in all. Cause Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Lord, now indeed I find thy power and thine alone can change the leper's spots and melt the heart of stone. Cause Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow.
own country and become the father of a great nation. Trusting in the Lord, Abram and his family forsake all that is familiar to them to set out for an unknown land. In this new country, they worship the Lord. The story is a major illustration of the way God acts in history by calling individuals to venture forth in faith. In Genesis chapter 12, the Lord had said to Abram, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram left as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. In the New Testament, Abram, or Abraham as you may probably better recall him, is praised for his faithful response to God's call. And his response plays a pivotal role in the Bible's story. If we read the Bible as one story, this particular story is a crucial story. If you have a highlighter or a marker or a pen, you can put 3 stars by this story, especially where it says in verse 3, "And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." This is the beginning of God's plan of salvation for all the peoples through the earth. And we believe as Christian people that this promise is fulfilled in the New Testament story of Jesus Christ, who is, of course, a member of the family of Abraham. Interestingly, in this story, did you notice this? Abram never speaks. Did you notice that? God speaks, Abram goes, but Abram does not speak. And so that leaves me to wonder, I have to fill in the gaps with my life. What was he feeling? Or what was he thinking? He doesn't speak. What was he thinking? And I think the Bible works like this sometimes. I think it evokes our interest, and it provokes our imagination to play over the story and try to fill in the gaps. I do believe that's why Jesus taught in parables, because he wanted to draw people in and get them thinking about what he was saying. So my imagination is just running wild over this story about what Abram was thinking when he headed off to this unknown place. Now God has made a promise. He's made a promise to bless him, but apart from that word of promise, there is in this story no detail. It is far less than crystal clear about what's going to happen to him when he gets to this land. So today's message is the 4th in a series that I've been calling The Shape of the Christian Life. And previous to this message, I've said our lives are shaped by choices that we make. Our lives are shaped by God's gracious provision. I mentioned specifically times when God has comforted us. And I mentioned that our lives are all shaped differently. God has created us differently and shaped our lives differently. So the Christian life does not have just one shape. So today I'd like to consider, in line with this series and this question, what is the shape of the Christian life? How our lives are shaped by what we think. By what we think. Because my mind, as I said, is just playing over the story, because the story doesn't tell us what Abram is thinking. So I'm just rushing to fill this in, and I'm thinking, well, how is my life influence our actions. Our actions form our habits. Our habits create our characters, and our characters shape our destiny. Do you think there is some truth in that? If there is some truth in that, then our thoughts, what we think, are absolutely crucial. They are bedrock. They are foundational. And this morning, as I think about Abraham, I'd like to talk with you specifically about our thoughts regarding the future, the unseen, the unknown, perhaps the really frightening unknown for some of us. And I wish to give credit to author and psychologist Dr. Emma Gray for being a resource for what part of I'm going to share with you. I read in the New Testament, Jesus is the truth. Wherever I find the truth, I find Jesus. And I think there's some truth in her words. So, when I think about my thoughts, and you consider your thoughts, thoughts can fall into a couple of different major categories. There are, number one, there are the thoughts that we choose to think. I choose to read this book. I choose to study this subject. I choose to watch this show. I choose to meditate or to pray. And I'm choosing thoughts that are going to be in my head as I make a decision about where to focus my attention. And part of what it means to take responsibility for ourselves is to choose, be proactive about the kinds of thoughts we put into our heads. Now, I can choose to take out the Bible and turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and I can read that chapter, either silently or aloud. You know, love is patient, love is kind, love is not easily angered, love keeps no record of wrongs. If I speak in the tongues of angels but have not love, I am but a clanging cymbal or a noisy gong. I can choose to read that, or I can choose to turn on the TV and watch an episode of Dukes of Hazzard. And either one of those choices is going to affect the kinds of thoughts that are in my head. You see, I'm making a decision about what I think. And my thoughts are very important, remember, because they influence my actions, which influence my habits, which influence my character, which influence my destiny. Not to mention my feelings. So there's a whole category of thoughts that are going on in my head that I choose. But it's also true to say that we have many thoughts in our head that we do not choose. They come to us unbidden, unsolicited, uncalled for. I'm not going to use random. I'm not going to say the word random, because there's good reasons for those thoughts. It may have to do with the past experience, what we've been taught or told by people in the past. It may have to do with my present environment. It may have to do with my own personality. But there are thoughts that just come to me. I didn't call for that thought. I wasn't looking for that thought, not that I'm aware of. But here this thought just pops into my mind, this idea. And sometimes that's a beautiful thing. I mean, our thoughts are one of the most amazing things about our species. Our ability to think has allowed us to succeed as no other part of God's creation has succeeded. And sometimes these thoughts that come to us are beautiful, sublime. We use the word inspiration. Someone once asked Picasso, is it hard to create great art? And Picasso said, it is either impossible or it's easy. You know what he's referring to there? He's talking about inspiration. sublime, inspiring thoughts. There are thoughts that come to us which are discomforting, even distressing thoughts. And I didn't ask for these thoughts. I didn't call for these thoughts, but these thoughts come to me. Now, at this point in time, it can be very helpful to recognize the choices God gives us with these kinds of thoughts. One way of looking at this is when we have these thoughts, and we even call it a stream of consciousness, just a stream of thoughts, is we imagine ourselves standing or sitting on a riverbank, and these thoughts are like a stream, and they just flow in front of us. They come from someplace far away, and we didn't, all of a sudden they pop up on the stream, and they float by in front of us, and we have a choice. We can get up off the bank, we can go down, wade into the water, and we can engage with those thoughts. We can pursue those thoughts down the water, or we can just sit on the bank and watch those float right on by until they go off into the distance. And those distressing thoughts, those discomforting thoughts, we have a choice. We can just let them float on by. Now, believe it or not, the Bible talks about this. St. Paul actually talks about this. He writes, when he writes to the Philippians in chapter 4, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. These are the things we should think about. Now there's these thoughts that come by, and there's even patterns of thoughts that come by, that float by in front of us on that stream. And I want to warn you about a couple of patterns of thinking. Because this comes to my mind as I think about Abraham. And when I try to imagine he was thinking as he got this word from God, and he was going to go off to this place he's never lived before. As an older man, he's lived his whole life here. Now he's going to leave for some place unknown, for an unknown future. And I'm pretty sure, as I imagine what Abraham was thinking, that he was not following these thoughts. He did not go down into the stream chasing these thoughts. Because these are the thoughts that really create anxiety for us. The first thought or pattern of thinking does this. It overestimates disaster. It overestimates disaster. It immediately runs to the very worst thing that can possibly happen. And what it does is it confuses probability with possibility. Anything is possible. I could be driving home from church today, and I could be tragically struck by an 18-wheeler. That is possible. Is it probable? No. And those of us who are inclined to a pattern of thinking, of preparing for the worst all the time in every situation, confuse possibility with probability. We overestimate disaster. Abram wasn't doing that. Otherwise, he never would have left. In fact, I suspect Abram was excited to go because he saw takes us to the second pattern of thinking. I'd encourage you just to let it float on by down that stream. It's not just overestimating disaster, it is underestimating your ability to cope with disaster. Do not do that. Do not underestimate your ability to cope. Think about all the things that you have coped with already. Paul, in the same letter where he said, think on these things, said this, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You have support, you have loved ones, you have experience, you have the power of the Holy Spirit, you have God with you. Do not underestimate your ability to cope with whatever happens. You can cope with it. You can manage it with God's help. Think on these things. When you're sitting on the bank of the river and those thoughts float by and say, it's just going to be terrible, it's just going to be terrible, you're not going to be able to handle it, you're not going to be able to manage it, you're not going to be able to cope with that, you're not going to be able to make it, you are not going to survive if this happens. Just let that go on down. Don't even engage it. Don't even think about it. Don't give it any attention. If you give it attention, it just gives it more power. Even if you think, I'm not going to think it, I'm not going to think it, that just gives it more power. Just let it go. Just let it float. Just let it go on down until finally it will disappear from sight. And another thought will come. I share that with you this morning because I do believe that the way we think shapes our lives. And I think that if we can think this over and over to it, just say it over and over to ourselves. When we take a deep breath, just take a deep breath. Breathe in. Breathe in. The worst is probably not going to happen. And whatever happens, God will carry us. We'll be okay. Will you please stand as you're able and sing, Lord, dismiss us with your blessing.